Happy Friday here on the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. Ryan Snyder back in the saddle to talk about the class of 2023. No, that's not right. The class of 2024. Looking ahead to the next cycle. Ryan's here to break a lot of things down and give you the names to know. So, Ryan, happy Friday. How you doing with all the ice and slush?
2-hour delay, man. So terrible. Like when you're little, you love the 2-hour delay, right? When you're in high school and you sleep in.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're an adult, the 2-hour delay is brutal.
Well, the first thing it means is that you have to get up earlier to get your car dug out if you're going to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an issue in this house. My kids are up at like 6. So we have this love-hate with melatonin gummies. Like they put them to sleep early, but they wake up earlier then. So we can't win this battle. So we're always up early. That's not a problem. But they're up at 6. They can't go until 10. That's a hectic 4 hours to start your day. So they're gone now, thankfully. But fun day, man. Good start to the morning. But let's talk recruiting. No one cares about my kids.
Let's before we get to 2024, let's address the news of yesterday, which I wanted to talk to you about, which is Jven Williams is now officially a 5-star for the class of 2023 in the On3 300, which is coming out next week. So give us a breakdown of what this means for Penn State and some of the implications for Jven and his, I guess, projection going forward in his career.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that, one thing I've been hitting on really pretty regularly is that for Penn State to have a top 10 class, you have to have pretty much 2 5-stars, I think.
Right.
At least when you look back over the years, the Northeast isn't deep enough where, you can land, or Notre Dame. Notre Dame's on this too recently, where, you have so many 4-star players that it gets you up there. I mean, for Penn State, they've pretty much always have had to have a couple 5-star players to get that kind of a ranking, and they got one now. So I'll be curious to see. Really, what I'm curious to see is Alex Birchmeier, because if Birchmeier can become a 5-star, and personally, my personal opinion, I still would lean towards Birchmeier being the better of the 2 prospects. Just my opinion,
right?
Not that I dislike Jven or anything. I just, from what I've seen from the 2, I think Birchmeier is just a little better technically at the moment.
Yeah.
Now they have a realistic chance at 2 5-star players, and On3 is about to update their ratings next week. I expect Birch right now is just outside. I think he's like in the low 30s, mid 30s,
32 as of right now.
Yeah. Which right now, I mean, that's right on the bubble. I mean, there's always pretty much 30 to, I mean, the way 5-star works is you're pretty much trying to project 1st-round draft picks down the road. So like 30, 32, 35. Sometimes it goes a little over 32, but that's kind of the way it works. So I think he's actually going to move up a little bit from what I heard. I'm not exactly sure on that yet. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think he can move into that in somewhere in the 20s. And, that would comfortably put him in a spot to potentially be a 5-star down the road. And if they can get in 2 5-star players in this class, plus then you have like a Jason Moore down the road potentially, then you have a real chance of being a top 10 class. So that's what stands out right now. Of course, it's great for Jven. I think Jven has a lot to still improve with technically, but I mean, it's all, when you give a 5-star rating, it's because, you feel like the ceiling is incredible.
Yeah.
And there's no denying that the ceiling is incredible for him. So be very, very curious to see his progression, man. I need to go out and, watch him throw some track this year. And we won't really get to see him in the trenches, of course, until the fall. I did watch the state championship game last year, but, I focused so much on 2022 last year. I didn't get to see enough 2023 guys. And he will certainly be circled for one of the first guys we see next fall.
Yeah. And some of the comments that Charles Power had, to you in one of your articles earlier this week was kind of what I was saying when we did T-Frank's film room is, maybe he's an NFL guard, but he can absolutely play tackle in college, and the projection of growth and development from a physical standpoint, plus, his natural strength and power and all those things. It's an interesting conversation to have that you've got another guy in Alex Birchmeier who is also a phenomenal athlete. and great technically. So you've got you're splitting hairs between these two. And something I said to somebody on the BWI message board, which is a great place to have these conversations if you want to go in there and talk about Penn State football and the recruiting and this guy or that guy. Sign up for just $1. You get 12 months of access, and you can get into the Lions Den message board for just that $1. It's a great problem to have. And Penn State having 2 potential 5-star offensive linemen in the same class, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal, and one of the things that you and I have talked about over time of getting those guys up front that are special difference makers, these level players. They are harder to get, and they are more rare, and Penn State presumably has 2 of them right now. So when you look at that, how does that set up the rest of the class? Just kind of in a big picture.
As far as, you mean, like, what do you mean by that? Like, as far as the offensive line class and like what they do moving forward?
Yeah. So one thing I've been kind of thinking is, if the guys are already there, right? So they're both already committed to the class. But if both were named 5 stars, does that make it more enticing to maybe another high-profile offensive lineman to feel like there's trust to then sign on with the Nittany Lions? I know there's 1,000 different variables, but is that a reasonable thing to think?
I don't know about offensive linemen. I would say Treyon Webb, the running back from Jacksonville. Yeah, I think that would be more enticing for him. I mean, it's something I've talked to him about in the past. Is, he's really taken notice to the offensive line group here, and I think even the other day, I think he was retweeting the story that I think I wrote about Birchmeyer and Jven being together, and how they're a special duo. So I mean, he's certainly taken notice to it, and I've talked to Penn State people about that same thing, about how he's hot on their board right now. This is something they're discussing with him a lot. So to me, I mean, I think it would help with him for sure. But I mean, other offensive linemen, I mean, I think those guys care more about personalities and how they mesh together, from a friendship perspective, more than like, oh, this guy's a 5-star, I want to play with him. I think they care more about, like, I enjoy playing Call of Duty with this guy, like we're becoming friends. I mean, just from previous experiences, that's kind of, I think it's more about meshing as friends than elite players. But I mean, now at other positions, like running back or quarterback, I mean that stuff matters more. But offensive linemen are always kind of usually unique guys. You know what I mean? They want to have that camaraderie. So I think that's a little more important.
Speaking of unique guys, and speaking of the offensive line class for 2023, I actually earlier this week was able to speak with Josh Miller, the offensive line commit from Virginia, to get a sense of who he is and his game and all those things. I know you've had a chance to talk to him. Awesome kid, super poised. I thought was the right word for him. Great conversation with him. And that's coming up next week on the BWI Daily Edition. So make sure you subscribe here on YouTube so you don't miss that. And of course, if you're listening on a podcast version, if you're on Apple Podcasts, rate and review is always super helpful. But wherever you get, make sure you subscribe. So you don't want to miss that coming up next week. Let's get to go ahead.
I got one thing real quick. I just wrote in my mailbag today that Josh is probably the most underrated guy in this class right now. It was funny. So, like, Penn State gets a 5-star yesterday, right?
Yep.
And, I'd send out a few texts to people up in Lash, hey, just so you know, this is coming, all that kind of stuff. And basically their responses were like, awesome. We're happy for Jayden and all that. But, oh, by the way, you guys have Josh Miller underrated, like multiple people were throwing that at me. And that's something people have talked to me before. That they think. I mean, I wrote specifically in my mailbox or in my mailbag today that, like, I'm pretty confident saying that Penn State has Josh Miller just as high on their board as Jven Williams, and that's, everybody sees things differently, but I think that's how highly they think of Josh. So just something to keep in mind down the road. I mean, he's going to certainly be a guy that I know and just from talking to Charles Power and some of our other scouts that are on 3. They've consistently said, like, yes, Josh is somebody who, we want to get another look at. And I know, Baltimore camp and Under Armour is coming up. Like that could be a chance for that to happen. And, Josh will also come up here and do the big man challenge at some point. So I'll be able to collect a bunch of film from that. But Josh is certainly somebody that I personally have circled as a guy I want to get in front of our scouts a little bit more. And I think Penn State definitely believes he's being slept on a little bit.
You're killing me. I want to spill all the beans about what we
Oh,
talked about.
sorry.
But no, you're so because
Save it.
you're right. So some of the things we talked about are his technique, some of the things I saw from him on film and what he's been working on this offseason, and getting a sense of the in-depth way that he sees the offensive line position and his skills he has already. Yeah, I agree. Everything you said, absolutely true. So again, this is like a 3-minute tease. You gotta subscribe so that you get to hear from Josh himself coming up next week. You want to dive into 24 now?
Let's go. I mean,
All
I'm still getting to know some of these. I'll start with this. Like, I'm still trying to get to know these 2024 guys. So I'd be lying if I said all these guys are about to talk about, or guys I've have awesome relationships with, and I know all these in-depth details. But what I do know is who's kind of standing out to Penn State, and that's what we're going to get into. So I probably just jumped your promotion there or your tease, but
no,
I wanted to get that
let's
kind of
let's just dive into quarterbacks. How about that?
Yep, let's go. Yeah, let's do it.
Where do you want to start with the two that you have? I've got two guys here on the list that I pulled from your articles, which you can always see at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Another great reason to sign up for $1. Do you want to start with Jayden Davis or Jayden Bradford? Which Jayden do you want to go with?
I mean, look, to me, it's pretty simple. Like, Jaydn Davis is the best quarterback in the country.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's by far clear by these highlights. Yeah.
Yeah, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been to Penn State, I believe, twice already. I believe he was here in the summer. And I'm not sure if he camped. I can't remember exactly. I don't think he camped. I think he came up at the end of July just for kind of like a personal day with the staff. And then he was also here for the Michigan game. So that's a great sign. But again, he's number one overall player in the country, number one quarterback in the country. And it's still really early in 2024, but everybody at all these different networks are raving about him already. And my point with this is just he's going to be very difficult to land.
Yeah.
It's never easy to get those number one overall recruits when you have so many talented programs pushing for him. But the fact that he's been here twice already is a great sign. And let's obviously see how it plays out a little bit more. To me, though, I think Jayden Bradford, just from early indications, of course, is probably the more realistic of the two at the moment. Right now, we have him at 60th in the On3 consensus. He's a 4-star player by On3. And he actually just recently transferred to IMG Academy, too. He's originally from Chapin, South Carolina. So Jayden's been here twice as well, just like the other Jayden. He was here, what would we think? It was, I believe he was here in the summer as well. And then also for one of the other games, I want to say maybe that was the Auburn game, I want to say. So that's another positive sign. South Carolina has been on him a lot already. He's been there 4 or 5 times already. But, right now it's pretty clear that these are going to be their 2 top quarterback prospects in 2024. And, there's a lot of offers that have also gone out at that position. But like CJ Carr, for example, Michael Van Buren. Michael Van Buren's a player I think we might be talking about at some point. He's from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. And CJ Carr is Lloyd Carr's son, of course, the former Michigan coach. So everybody already is picking him to end up at Michigan, which
right.
And probably will happen. But Michael Van Buren would be the other one I really should probably mention right now. And he too has been up here. He was just up here at the January 29th junior day, excuse me. And, another player Penn State has a good start with, we'll say. So yeah. Long way to go. Again, I'm going to say this about all these guys. Long way to go, after we end these positions. But those 3 definitely grab my attention at the moment. And Jayden Bradford would be the one that, just from my conversations with him and everything, it's like, okay, I think Penn State may have a real chance with him.
Interesting, too, just for me, from a film perspective, to watch these guys and haven't gone into any of their film, just their highlights of Jaydn Davis, looks ready. His footwork is pure, his release is easy, but these are young players, and I'm intrigued. I would love to talk to Mike Yursich or some of the other staff about what they look for when it comes to a quarterback, because there's a bit more raw there with Jayden Bradford, but the tools you can see are similar. So just looking at a guy who's a sophomore quarterback, that's all very interesting. So moving on to the running back position, who are we looking at here as far as priorities and guys that have interest?
Well, I mean, I think it really depends on what you consider Quentin Martin. Of course,
Yeah.
out of Bell Vernon. I mean, he's another guy. I think Quentin Martin's going to be a five-star player. Or
Yeah.
I think he should at least seriously be considered. I mean, I feel pretty confident saying he's going to be a top 50
Quickly,
kind of
how big
player.
is he? How big is he? Like,
That's a good question. I mean, right now I have him at 6'1.5", 185. He's probably a little bit above 185 at the moment.
okay, because
But
he looks
I need to.
huge.
He
So
does, yeah.
the first minute and a half of his highlight film that I just had to get through because it was the same thing over again. He returned like 8 kicks for touchdowns, and he's just all legs, and he looks like a defensive end running out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy watching this guy as an athlete. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just speaks to what you're saying about this is a 5-star athlete, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I was trying to real quick kind of get up one of my previous lists. He was up here on January 15th for a junior day, and I was trying to get the accurate height and weight. I mean, I put it this way. I mean, after all these visits, I talked to some people up there, and I try and keep these height and weights as accurate as I can. So the fact that I have 6'1.5" in there tells me I probably updated that
Yeah.
not long after he visited. So I think that's a pretty accurate height and weight at the moment. But yeah, we have him. Like I said, I mean, we have him right now as the 12th player in the country, which is well on pace to be a 5-star player. We still have him as marked as a 4-star in the on-3 consensus because it's just we try not to hand out 5 stars and then take them away and have it changing all the time. When you hand out a 5-star rating, you don't want to take that away. So it happens, yeah, but you try not to. So anyway, we don't have him marked as a 5-star at the moment, but number 12 in the nation would certainly fit that. And Penn State's off to a great start with Quentin, man. He's going to be, I think, probably their most important prospect in 2024. Other players will, of course, emerge, but to me, he's a no-brainer being a Pennsylvania guy. He's been here 4 times. And the one quote I keep telling everybody is just the one talk I had with one of the sources up in Lash, and that I've had not multiple people, but one source has told me multiple times that they think Quentin Martin is the best Pennsylvania prospect since Micah Parsons. So, boom, isn't that all you need to know right there?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's how they're looking at it, and there's been some good players come out of PA since Micah, of course. So,
Yeah.
Clearly a top guy, but he could also play linebacker too, and that's kind of circling back to where I started. This is kind of depends on how you look at him. Right now, I am looking at Quentin as a running back, but with 2 years to go, a lot can change.
He could be
but
a
also,
defensive end in 2 years. The way he could grow.
Mm-hmm. But when I look at the other guys on the board, I mean, Stacey Gage from IMG Academy is a very special prospect. He's going to be another guy who I think is a potential 5-star.
Yeah.
He did go to Penn State's Outback Bowl practice down in Tampa, which is a positive, but he lives in the area. It's like a 10-minute drive. I don't want to be like, oh, because he went to practice. Like Penn State's going to be in the mix with him. He needs to get on campus before I would probably seriously consider that. I would also note Trey McLeod from IMG Academy, or not IMG, excuse me, Ematep Charter in Philadelphia. He's a good-looking young prospect. Kind of want to see how he progresses a little bit more, but he's someone Penn State's already offered. I think he has Ole Miss and Texas A&M too. So solid offers there. Two guys real quick who don't have offers yet that kind of stand out to me is Jven Williams. He's from St. Joseph's Regional in New Jersey. And then also Micah Ford, who's also from New Jersey, Toms River. Ford has a West Virginia offer already. And then Willis has, I believe, Boston College, Maryland, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, and West Virginia. So he has a good chunk of those regional programs. Penn State hasn't offered those two yet. But just from talking to people, I know there's real interest in those two. So keep an eye on Jven Williams and Micah Ford.
So I know that we talked about in 2023, the region's a bit down at the position. Are those guys kind of the water coming back up in the region, or is that we're keeping an eye, don't know which way it's
kind of early.
Go?
It's kind of too early for me to say,
Gotcha.
like, I mean, I like to always just kind of be very honest and not try and BS you guys. And I'd be lying if I said I took a deep dive into what Mid-Atlantic running backs are right now.
Right.
We're trying right now. I mean, my focus in February, of course, has been trying to get a feel for the overall board and where kind of these guys rank. And then probably when we get more into May, I would say definitely before the summer, I'll take a closer look regionally at like, okay,
right.
Wide receivers stacked in Mid-Atlantic and O-line's down, whatever it may be. I'm kind of just making up things right now. But usually that's something I focus more on, like late April, May.
Yeah. Some of the names you listed in some of your articles, a lot of them not surprisingly, including Stacey Gage, as we talked about, are all from Florida, all IMG running backs, things like that. So that was just curiosity of, is that kind of a balancing out, or are those the guys that the possibilities?
Yeah, so one thing I'll say to that is that I think if you really pay attention to recruiting, you'll notice like Penn State hands out a lot of Florida offers to young players. And to me, what that really is just trying to get interest going,
Right.
with these. We know these young kids from Florida are going to be awesome. Okay. Let's hand out a verbal offer, and let's just try and get conversations started with mom, dad, coach. So maybe in a year from now, we can get them up for, maybe this summer or next summer, get them up here and just get a foot in the door. Because if you're looking, we talked about this the other week about how many offers they're handing out. And just in Florida, man, they're just being incredibly aggressive with it, because really for every 20 offers they hand out, probably, just a handful of those guys are going to like, oh, okay, Penn State offer. Let's start looking into them more and talking to their coaches more. So it's kind of just like fishing, man, just kind of hand out these offers, see what interest you get, and take it from there.
So then the receiver position, let's move on there. There are a couple more guys that you've highlighted that are a little more regional, but of course some mid-Atlantic players, I'd say, that are really impressive. Where do you want to start on this list?
To me, I mean, from talking to people, I think Keelan Adams from Green Run in Virginia Beach is going to be a very important player for Penn State. Right now, I mean, from talking to people, I think he's probably like their top guy. But again, I mean, they've kind of struggled a little bit in the Tidewater region. So, like, I know he's very high on their board, but I think they got to get him up here and at least get him on campus once or twice for a visit before I would be like, oh, okay, Penn State probably has a real chance with him. When I look down the board, I look at Tyseer Denmark from Roman Catholic. I think he's going to be a pretty important player down the road. Right now, I'd probably have him as like a top 200 or so prospect. I think Penn State's still trying to evaluate him too, but I think when push comes to shove, he's going to end up being a guy that they push pretty hard for. Chance Wiggins from King George, Virginia, I know they're pretty high on. Micah Gilbert from Charlotte, North Carolina. He was up here for, I believe it was the Michigan game, I want to say. Alex Taylor from Grimsley, which is, I believe, in North Carolina. He's already like 6'3", 175. He's a good-looking prospect. I know Alex Taylor is going to be a guy we're talking about. But there's just a lot of names at this position, more so than like guys who, I can circle like Jayden Bradford. I can circle Quentin Martin.
Right.
To this, it's more so like, here's a handful of guys that I know they're interested in. Let's see how the spring into summer shakes out, getting them on campus. But real quick, I do have to mention David Washington from St. Joseph's Prep, down in Philadelphia. I think he's going to be an important player. And Nick Marsh, too, from River Rounds, from Michigan. He's another guy. I mean, all those guys I mentioned are players they would really like to get on campus here over the next couple months.
I can't seem to find my highlight of him, but David Washington was one I wanted to ask you about, because little undersized, a little smaller, looks like a slot receiver at the moment, but plays big, physical at the catch point. So is the size at receiver is not necessarily a problem there. Because a lot of the guys that we talked about to start the list, 6'1", 6'2", a couple guys that you mentioned 6'3", and then you got this guy who's a bit of an outlier, but plays that way. So I guess curious of
they just want ballers, man.
Yeah,
they just want ballers. I mean, look at their receiver room now. Look at John. Look at KJ. I mean, I don't think they want a big presence that they can throw fades to, and they would love. Everybody wants a DK Metcalf, but I think at the end of the day, there's multiple ways to get it done at that position, and they're looking for guys who just kind of make plays. So one guy I did fail to mention too was Jonathan Paylor, who's going to be just an absolute stud of a player from North Carolina. I do believe Paylor was on campus, or at least they were trying to get him on campus last summer. I'd have to pull up his profile here. I don't have it up at the moment, but he's just a guy I know Penn State loves. They would love to, get him back, and we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, man, there's just a lot of this position is one of those ones where there's like a dozen guys they want to get on campus. Talk to me in 4 or 5 months from now, and I'll have a better feel for like, okay, this guy's going to be someone we need to really watch.
Yeah, and it's a volume position anyway. When you've got 3 to 5 receivers per year that you can take because of the number you have to put on the field, makes a ton of sense. Speaking of 3 to 5, I made the joke when we were talking about 23 a month ago that Penn State's had anywhere from 4 to 6 tight ends on the roster for 2023, with guys possibly moving around. What is the sense of the 2024 class, and what's the strength there? Where are they looking for talent at that position?
I would say so. Right now, there's two guys probably at tight end who really kind of grab my attention, and that's Grant Steck from Illinois. I believe it's Steck. It's Stec. I think it's Steck. And Brady Prieskorn, who's from Rochester, Michigan. Prieskorn came out to Penn State for, I believe, their January 15th junior day. Got an offer. And I think it was his first Power 5. And since then, he's blown up. Ohio State's offered a bunch of other top programs. I believe Michigan was another one. Maybe it was Michigan State. Oh, no, I think actually both, actually. So he's going to be a guy I think we're talking about a good bit here in the months ahead. But, I mean, they haven't handed out too many tight end offers yet, and I do see a lot of guys in the region who make sense. They have offered Fatim Diggs, I believe, who he could kind of be a defensive end or a tight end. He's from Woodrow Wilson in Camden. He's a guy I really actually I'm hoping to see on the camp circuit this spring, because a lot of people speak highly of Fatim. I just don't know a ton about him. But when I look across the region, then I see a lot of players who would make sense for an offer. My eyes really focus on Jack Larson from Charlotte. He's got a handful of quality offers so far. I think he's on pace to be a 4-star player. Penn State hasn't offered him yet, and it kind of surprises me. I thought they would have offered him already, but they haven't. I'm looking at Elijah Moore from Good Counsel. He is one of those players who, like, if you talk to him, he's a wide receiver, and I get it. He wants that's where he wants to play, but I feel like it's just a matter of time until he outgrows the position. We have him at 6'4", 190. I mean, he's going to be well into the 220, 230 range, probably by the end of his career, high school career, or, early college career. But good player, though. I mean, I think Elijah is somebody we'll be talking about. And Jaylen Ballew, I believe it is, from New York. I think he's from Rasmus, I want to say. Yeah, Rasmus Hall. We have him at 6'3", 210. Penn State hasn't offered him yet either, but he's got Rutgers, Texas A&M, Miami, Tennessee, Ole Miss. There's some quality schools there.
Yeah.
And Jaylen has been on campus, I believe, once. Or no, excuse me, he was invited to come to one of those January ones and couldn't make it. But he'll be a guy who's back this spring. So I see two guys right now who have offers, and Steck and Prieskorn. And Prieskorn, out of those two, I think they're going to go pretty hard for him. And then a bunch of quality guys who I see getting offers down the road, especially Larson, Ballew, Moore, those kind of guys.
So now I need you to tell me exactly how many of them they're going to take in 24.
I don't know. It depends on where Matthias ends up. I mean, it's Andrew Repellier committed to Michigan. We're talking 2023.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think Penn State stopped recruiting him, and of course, he wanted to kind of end up at Penn State first. So it just talk to me after 2023.
Oh yeah.
Who knows?
Oh yeah. It's just the question
but
everybody wants to know, right? It's always like, oh, good information. Now tell me exactly what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
please. One thing
I can't tell you where 2023 will end up, so who knows with this class? But anyway. Go ahead.
One thing we do know for sure, Penn State has a commit in the class of 2024, and it's on the offensive line. Cooper Cousins out of Erie. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the offensive line, and we'll start here and then go to the guys that are uncommitted but there's interest.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say with Cooper is, he's truly one of those guys who can play all over. I mean, he's kind of, it's still early. I mean, I would think maybe he could maybe grow into a tackle, but we'll see. I mean, but he's, he snaps already and could certainly be a guard and could certainly, if he continues to grow, could grow into a tackle. So
that's skinny his lower body is. Like, just look at the potential, the growth potential there that he has, and he's this player already, and there's more room to grow.
Yeah, it was an easy take for Penn State. Usually they, there's plenty of sophomores who have tried to commit to them over the years, and they have pretty much, said we'll pass on this at the moment. We like you, but let's get to know each other more, all that stuff. But with Cooper, man, I mean, it was clear. I was talking to people in December, and they were like, yeah, if he wants to jump, we're ready for it. And of course, he did then at the end of January. But some other guys in the class, I think. Fans are pretty familiar with Jordan Seaton by now from St. John's College High. I know, T-Frank, you've seen Seaton already. I remember, who were we talking about? We looking at Neo Avery's film?
Yes.
And you were watching Seaton?
Yes, that's who it was. Absolutely. He is talented. He is very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good player, man. He's been up here twice already, I believe. So, good start there. It's another guy I'm sure will be back here in the spring or summer. A couple others. I mean, I have Kyle Altuner circled from Good Counsel in Washington. I think he's a pretty good player and one who I think we'll be talking about a lot. I mean, what do you think? Maryland, Ole Miss, Pitt, Rutgers are a handful of the schools there, and a lot of bigger programs too. Or I think will come calling with time. Peter Jones, of course, from Malvern Prep. I mean, if I was to put in another prediction for a 2024 guy, it would absolutely be Peter Jones. I mean, he's admittedly a Penn State fan growing up. I'd be curious to see where he plays. I mean, when I've seen him, I felt like he's more of a guard, but
Yeah.
people have said, he's growing more, and I haven't seen him since last June. I saw him before the whiteout camp, so he was a true freshman going into the sophomore season at the time. And right now he's listed at 6'4.5", 295. So let's if he can add another inch or two, then absolutely it would make sense that he could play outside. But the one thing I do remember about Peter is that he came up to the whiteout camp last year and out bench press like a ton of talented players who also camped here. I mean, I know he did 225 like well over a dozen times. So that's notable, man. When you're a freshman going into your sophomore year, I mean, there's a lot. You'd be surprised at how many quality high school offensive linemen are still, they can do 185 a lot, but they haven't gotten to 225 and are able to really rep it. So that was one number that really stood out to me when I was talking to Peter, and then also, Penn State sources kind of confirming it. So I look at those three as guys that I think we're going to be talking about a ton, but there are a lot of players, just like at wide receiver, man, this is a volume position. So Fletcher Westfall from Virginia, Ben Roebuck, who I saw play against Drew Aller. He plays at St. Edwards outside of Cleveland. Luke Hamilton from Avon, Ohio. I've had a talk with him already. And Luke and Fletcher have both been on campus already. Liam Andrews, I think from Massachusetts, is going to be a player we're talking about a lot. He's going to come down here and visit. Hopefully, I believe his plan was some point here in the spring. And calling it now, guys, remember the name Liam Andrews, because when I talk to Penn State people, they are incredibly high on him. But there's also Cameron Warren from St. Francis. A lot of guys. One last guy I got to mention quick because I feel like I'm rambling here, but it's man, I don't know how to pronounce his first name. It's Gooberry. I know that's not right. Lambert from Roxbury, Mass. Dude, he's 6'7", 285, like an incredibly good-looking prospect here. Ohio State's already offered, Kentucky, Boston College. I'm surprised Penn State hasn't offered yet, but from talking to people, I know there's a lot of people on Lash who are really high on him and are, just kind of scouting him still. So it's Guerby Lambert. I don't know how to Goberry. I don't. Gorby? I don't know. Gobry? I don't know. I don't want to butcher it. Sorry, buddy. But yeah,
I think we already did, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, I totally butchered that. Yeah, but anyway, he's going to be a guy we're talking about a lot here in the months ahead.
I always, when you're 6'7" as a sophomore, it's like that.
Yeah,
and it's so alien to me to think about being
legit 6'7" too. Yeah,
yeah, and if he grows any taller, he might be replacing John Hara on the hardwood. If he keeps growing, he's 6'9". Yeah. Let's go over to the other side of the ball, defensive end. What are the guys here? Because this is another key position for Penn State. Always got to refresh those edge rushers and get guys with length and speed. So what are we seeing there?
Yeah, well, another pretty good group, and 2023 is a good group for defensive ends, and I think 2024 is going to be another group too. This is one of the actually positions that I do think. We're talking regionally earlier. I do think the region is going to be pretty good defensive end for 2024. So that's good because, obviously Penn State's had success at that position and especially with regional guys. I look at Dylan Stewart from Friendship Collegiate Academy as a player we're going to be talking about a ton. He's already a 4-star player, and I think he's going to be a top 100 prospect. I mean, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas A&M, you name them, they're going to be interested. He was at I think it was the Under Armour camp last April or May, I want to say. And, ran a 4.8 40, man, as a freshman. That's pretty damn good for he's 6'4", 210 too. I mean, there's some freak athleticism there. I think he had a 4.6 shuttle too. So those are all great times. But Ernest Wilnor, of course, from St. Paul's in Baltimore, he's been up once or twice already. He's a guy I'm actually working to get an interview on. We'll see if I can get him get something up on him next week. Dominic Nichols. I think anyone who's followed us over
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks has learned about Nichols and his rise. Penn
He
State's
stands out to me quite a bit, 6'6", 225, and if you see here the way he runs and how much room he has to grow, he could be a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, they really like his potential. I remember, I don't know, it was probably about a month ago. It was a little bit before the January. It was a little over a month ago. It was probably, I would say, the end of December. And I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Have you heard about this Dominic Nichols kid yet?" And at the time, I hadn't at all. It was before he had come up to visit the Penn State, and one of the first things they were saying is just like, "Wow, you need to check him out," because he's from Oakdale, which is outside of Frederick, Maryland. It's not one of those DeMathas or the McDonoughs of the world where he's playing in front of a ton of people. And but Penn State really thinks that they found something here, and he's only has Boston College and Va Tech, and I think maybe
Oh, wow.
Toledo or Maxwell. My point is just like they're fine with that. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
we're fine with nobody else kind of realizing how talented this young man is yet. But that'll change with time. He's
That's all
already
over
visited
now.
Maryland.
Now that it's on the BWI Daily edition, it's gonna go.
Right,
It's gonna go
I ruined
viral
it.
on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, he already visited Va Tech. Brent Pry's going to be on him hard,
Yeah.
and yeah, we'll see what happens there. But he's a talented player who I think we're going to be talking about a good bit. Two other guys, real quick. Jacob Smith, he's originally from Kentucky. He plays up at Loomis Chaffee in Windsor, Connecticut. He's actually his brother Jared too. They're twins. His brother Jared's a defensive tackle. Jacob's a defensive end. And Penn State's really trying to get them on campus here soon. They're two other guys who, with them being at boarding school, they kind of have to get home to Kentucky, then to come back up
Right.
Towards the Northeast. So I would think they would probably be more like summer visits down the road. But
kind of like the Okunlolas over at Thayer Academy, right? Where they're
exactly.
They're there and then they're there, and
now,
then you got to find the window to get out to have a visit.
Yeah, their family's a lot closer. I mean, their family's not far from that region, but they are still at a boarding school. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's same with the IMG Academy guys. Like all those guys go to IMG, and then you're stuck there, and you can't really visit till the summer. But I would expect both of those guys to be circled and players that Penn State wants to get on campus here, definitely by the end of the June period.
Couple more positions here on the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. Ryan Snyder, our recruiting insider, taking us through the class of 2024, the early names to know. There's going to be guys that blow up. There's going to be guys that literally get physically gigantic and will be part of the conversation later, but these are the early names to know in 2024. So we're moving on. Did we do defensive tackle yet? Did we kind of blend in there? Okay, so let's go to defensive tackle. Yep. Who are the names we need to know?
Yeah, well, Philadelphia has three quality prospects, and Richard James from St. Joseph's Prep, Jashir Whittington and Ematep Charter, and Deshaun Dotson from Newman Goretti, which are, those are pretty much the three of the biggest programs. Roman Catholics is pretty going down there. But all three of those guys hold a Penn State offer currently. I think with Richard James and Whittington, they're both like right at 6 foot right now. And of course, Penn State would love to see them closer to 6'2". So I think they really want to see how those two grow. They hold an offer, yes, but I just know Penn State's would love. I mean, if Jashir Whittington put on 2 inches, I think he would, Penn State would be all over him because I think he's a good player. I was really impressed with him in the 2 games I saw him play this year. One was against DeMatha earlier in the year. And the other was the state championship game. So Whittington's a player I like a lot. He's right at 6 foot. So schools are really going to want to see him grow. And of course he's young still too. So it's very much possible.
That's one of those things too, where 6 foot is okay. Yeah. You'll take somebody at 6 foot if they have all the other characteristics you're looking for, right?
You got to have that strength.
Yeah. You've got to be able.
You got to be a Powerball. Sorry.
Yeah. We haven't done that in a while.
Durant. You got to be Zane Durant. I mean, Zane Durant's I think a little bit over. He's definitely over 6 foot.
Yeah,
but
6'1".
That's what Zane Durant is. I mean, he's just like this ball of power.
Yeah.
And could really kind of hold down the fort and take on double teams. So. Those guys are sophomores, though. I don't want to overthink it too much. Let's see how they grow and progress with time. Just a couple other guys real quick. Brandon Davis Swain from West Bloomfield in Michigan. I think he's going to be a player that Schools are all over. Of course, the Michigan schools, pretty much all the Big Ten schools are on him, and Penn State will be looking to get him on campus. I think he did visit in the summer, so he's been on campus once. Emmett Laws and Darian Smith, both two prospects from Maryland that I think Penn State's very interested in. I don't believe those. I think they do hold offers. Excuse me. I'm trying to remember if they hold offers. I think they do. But just kind of guys that they're scouting right now. Emmett Laws plays at DeMatha, and Penn State's always had a lot of success there. So
Yep.
I would expect them to be back on campus at some point.
We took some time this week to take a look at the linebackers for 2023 over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Once again, if you want to read that, you need to be a premium member. Sign up for just $1. Link is in the description of this video, so you don't even have to go anywhere. Just scroll down, click the link, and then you sign up for a year for $1. You can go find that article of how well Tamir Robinson, Phil Picciotti, and Tony Rojas fit together as a linebacker unit if they were all to choose the Nittany Lions. But we're talking about 2024 and a name that I even know because you've talked about him, Anthony Specca. So let's start there at linebacker. Yes. What is intriguing about him, and who are the other guys around him to know?
Specca right now, Quentin Martin's the top guy in 2024, but when I look across the 2024 Pennsylvania, I think Specca's probably would be my second pick there. I think Specca is a really impressive prospect.
Yeah.
Notre Dame and Pitt are both going to be serious contenders there, but Penn State loves him, and Specca's absolutely going to be a guy that I go see this season. I was trying to go see him last season. I was so interested in him because I hear so many good things about him, but he actually then got hurt. I held off early in the season because I had so many 2022 guys I wanted to see, and then he got hurt at the end of the year when I was hoping to see him in the playoffs there. But Specca is, in my opinion, going to be one of the best linebacker prospects to come out of Pennsylvania in a while. I'm not going to say since Micah because we get Quentin that, but yeah, he's really good. Go ahead.
Can I just want to throw this up here again because I see three distinct things already on his film. Watch the way he chases here on this play, reads it, chases, and then is just an animal when he attacks. Then you got this here in coverage, and to have that sort of profile as a hitter and to be able to move like that in space. Already, I'm interested that you're going to be a guy that can be a complete linebacker. And then watch him make this lineman miss. To be able to dip around blocks like that is a skill. To be able to dip around blocks and to be able to not get out of position while still evading a block and not have to go through all of them. So right there, just in 3 highlights, that's a guy that has serious potential at linebacker.
Dude, look at you, man! I didn't even notice that. I saw the first 2 plays. I didn't notice how well that shed was at the end there. That you're right with that. So he did tear his labrum, unfortunately. So shoulder injuries, they can be tricky. So yeah. I hope nothing comes to that, man, because I've seen a lot of players over the year where they get a labrum and it doesn't go away. That keeps kind of bugging with them. So I really hope that doesn't impact Anthony here in the years ahead, because I think he's going to be an incredibly special prospect. But to move on, Chris Jones then from Mountain View in Stafford, Virginia. I wrote a story on him this past week. Right now we have him at around 6'2", 215. He ran a 4.8 40 as a freshman, which again, at 6'2", 215, that's a pretty good time. I mean, he can realistically probably get that down another 10th or 2, which, at that size is great. Now, he could grow into a defensive end as well at that size. I mean, I see some similarities to Brandon Smith, but Brandon Smith was a little bit older too at that size too. So I kind of wonder if he's going to outgrow the position. But South Carolina, Virginia are both have gotten him on campus already. Penn State hosted him for the Auburn game and for camp. So that was another thing too. Penn State got Chris Jones up at camp. So I think he'll be a player we're talking about a good bit. Looking through the board here, Aaron Childs from Good Counsel is pretty high on their board. Gabriel Williams, Darius Jones, both from St. Francis. I mean, when Penn State lands a player from St. Francis, I'll go into detail about him. Until then, I'm going to move on. William Love from
We'll
Camden.
make a whole show about it.
Yeah. I mean, just when they land it, we'll go into St. Francis details way more, I promise. Yeah. Cam Lindsey from Aliquippa. Those are a couple guys I think they're interested in. Some guys who don't hold an offer yet, though, that I think will probably get one with time is Monte Whedon from St. John's College High. I'm actually very surprised they haven't offered him, similar to Larson back at the tight end position we were talking about. I think Whedon's going to be a really good player. Ole Miss and Maryland, Boston College are already on him. I like him a lot. Tyler Baker from Green Run is another player I think they're pretty interested in. And then Simeon Coleman from DeMatha Another pretty good player. So keep an eye on those three for offers in the months ahead.
Now we'll move on to defensive backs, and I say defensive backs because I don't know at this point, are there guys that are separating themselves as true corners, and then are there guys that are true safeties that have differentiated, or are we still looking at all these young players as they're playing in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're a corner, this is how I look at it. You're a corner in high school. You want to stay a corner, like all of them want to stay a corner, but half of them are going to move to safety, right? And then when you're a safety in high school, and you really want to stay at safety, well, half of those guys are going to end up moving to linebacker. That's just kind of how it works. So when I look at 2024 defensive backs, I just kind of put them all together and talk to me in a year from now.
Because I'll say this,
so much
for these guys, that's true. The lucky ones that actually keep growing after their sophomore season. I don't know that happened for you and me.
No, unfortunately. 5'8", but really I'm probably like 5'7", let's be honest. No, I'm 5'8". I'm 5'8". Anyway.
Yeah. Never give up that inch. Never do that.
No. Oh, no. Hey, everybody adds an inch to me, man. Every kid I talk to 6'2". No, you're not. You're 5'11". Get the hell out of here. Ellis Robinson, though. Let's get into players. Ellis Robinson, man. He just transferred to IMG Academy. He's going to be a 5-star without a doubt. He was originally at Iona Prep from New York. I believe he's from Connecticut originally, but man, he is a special player. We have a number 4 right now in the on-3 consensus, and he's going to be a 5-star. He's incredible. It stinks that he is off the IMG Academy, man, because we've seen this so many times for Penn State. They get a foot in the door with the special upcoming player here in the area. He goes down to IMG. Everybody grabs him, and he ends up at Alabama. I mean, that's the Tyler Booker story, who of course signed with Alabama in the last class. He was a really talented offensive lineman. But let's see what happens there. I don't want to be too negative about it, but I know people on Lash were really bummed to see him move to IMG. Desmond Ricks then from Chesapeake, Virginia is the same example. Really, he's off to IMG now. So Florida, North Carolina, he's got a ton of awesome offers. Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma. But to get to the guys who I think are staying within the region, Emilio Agard at St. Joseph's Prep was a very, very talented player, man. I mean, he can make some incredible plays. I've seen it now, both in actual games and in the camp circuit. So I think Agard's going to be a player we're talking about a lot. Right now, he's number 34 in the on-3 consensus. So he's looking, whenever you have top 50 prospects, especially in state, he's going to be someone that we're talking about a good bit. I think Jalen McClain from Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey is kind of underrated at the moment. He's another corner, likely, but let's see how things shape out. But just from talking to people on Lash, man, that's the name when I ask, who am I sleeping on? Jalen McClain's the name. Kenny Woosley from Ematep Charter is I think another corner, but he's a guy who, if I had to circle the players I'm talking about right now who I think are most interested in Penn State, Kenny definitely makes the most sense there. Just moving on to a couple guys who I have listed as safeties at the moment. Let's see how they progress. Idris Farouk from Baltimore, Zaire Rayner, I believe, from Richmond, Virginia, and then Jacob Oden from Harper Woods, Michigan. I'm really surprised Penn State hasn't offered Oden yet. He has a ton of elite offers from Michigan and Notre Dame and Oklahoma. And I know they're trying to get him on campus. They're still scouting him. I'm just really surprised they haven't offered him yet. Keep an eye on Rennell Davis, too, from Roman Catholic. He doesn't hold an offer yet from Penn State, but he has been up here, I know once, I believe twice, and he's a guy they're scouting a good bit. So let's see, man. This is another quality or another depth position where you just hand out a ton of offers and get them on campus. Get a lot of these guys to camp. That'd be important.
Here's another thing, too. About the secondary, unless you're in a really good league, it's hard to tell who's good in coverage because not every quarterback can challenge a safety. Not every quarterback has the ability or consistently throughout a season to see, okay, what are his ball skills when he's not catching punts from a sophomore quarterback. What is his skill if a corner goes up against a really good receiver? That one's a little bit easier, but some of those positions in the secondary can be pretty hard to scout on a real level to get a sense of their strengths and weaknesses outside of their physical abilities.
Mm-hmm. And so many players just aren't even challenged. Yeah. I've seen so many guys over the year where, realistically, they get thrown at 10, to 15 times a whole season. You know, like they have to go out of their way to make plays, man. So it is definitely a difficult position to scout, no doubt.
All right, well, that'll do it today for the BWI Daily Edition. I know you got to get going. You got more work to do, so we're going to keep you with your head down working hard. So thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yep, final week of the dead period, right? One thing I will say here, Penn State has March 5th to March 13th spring break, so I think it's going to keep things a little quieter, unfortunately, for a little bit longer. You're going to see some guys visiting other schools, but with that spring break, I think the first half of March is going to be a little slow. March 20th, though, that's when things are really going to pick up.
All right, we'll put that on our calendars, which my wife says I really need to get one of those. So we'll see if by March if I have one. That'll do it for the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. That's Ryan Snyder. We'll be back on Monday. Don't forget, Josh Miller, commit for the class of 2023, coming up next week on the Daily. Don't miss it.